All right, welcome back, everybody, to the Modern Revolution. I'm glad you came back for another episode. As you know, for those who've been listening for a while, we don't spend a lot of time talking about why you should listen to the guest. Instead, we just want you to listen to them. We want you to make up your own mind. And should they intrigue you, we will show you how to find them and you can learn more about them. So today we have Mr. John Graham Harper with us. John, thanks for spending time with us.
Many thanks. I really appreciate the opportunity to share. Of course, when you are launching a company, in America, you're trying to get the word out. So it's always, I'm very grateful for any opportunity to get on a channel to talk, share my story. It's a big help.
Well, it's our privilege, and so I'm grateful that you connected today and going to spend some time. The question that we like to start with, John, is what problem are you trying to solve in the world? We're curious about as you're directing your energy out there, what are you trying to solve out in the world?
That's such a great question. Like you were saying before, it all comes down to the right question. That's truly the right question. I mean, in short, what I would say is pain.
Okay,
The problem I'm trying to solve is pain. I've had a lot of personal pain, mostly physical, obviously, which leads to mental pain. But yeah, it
right,
was physical, mental pain in my history, and I used red light therapy to recover. So not
okay,
only I was recovered physically, but also mentally. In my family, with my parents, with my grandparents, there's a lot of pain, and I've been blessed enough to be able to, stumble upon on this technology, on this treatment, which is natural that I've shared with them and I've relieved them of pain. And that is like, honestly, that is probably the reason why I wake up every morning, why the whole,
right,
it gives you a sense of purpose is because if you're trying to relieve pain in the world, it's something that I think everybody suffers, at
right.
least, minor pain.
Yeah.
Um, is a big mountain to climb, obviously, but yeah, I mean, to answer directly what you're, I'm trying to fix pain. I'm trying to provide a solution for pain relief.
Well, I mean, no more noble quest in a certain sense, right? You're looking to clear the road. It's hard to kind of become your best self if you're, trying to overcome a nagging pain, a chronic pain, and all of that. My wife's a naturopathic physician, and so the notion of um, getting down to the root causes of things and working with things that won't hurt you as a primary prerequisite for the medicine itself. So maybe you can start to describe to us a little bit about, I'm not sure red light therapy is familiar to everybody. So before we get into maybe what led you down that road, perhaps you could teach us a little bit about like, well, what are you talking about when you talk about red light therapy?
Yeah, I mean, my personal story with red light therapy, I was an athlete and I was injured. Red light therapy helped me. So I like to keep things very simple. You
Hmm.
know, I, you know, I have I mean, there's a great benefit to me that the resources that I have access to a lot of photobiomodulation scientists,
Okay.
a lot of, doctors. Then they provide the research, they, provide the support, the credibility. But I am a former athlete that was riddled with pain. I like to keep things simple. Red light therapy saved me. And so how I always describe red light therapy, and usually when I'm talking to people, I'm talking about talking to people like myself,
Right.
that former gym rats, that would sort of muscle through pain and so
Yeah.
try to do things the David Goggins way, you could say. So
Yeah.
I always like what red light therapy is from the sun,
Okay.
right? From the sun. The optimal time to get red and infrared light is at sunrise and sunset.
Okay.
I there in the desert where you are, and in Arizona and here in Miami, there are times when you see that beautiful sunrise.
Right.
Those beautiful colors that you see coming up the horizon. That's
Sure.
red and infrared light, and that's when the light is at the right length. The wavelengths of light, they're at the right
Okay.
length to be able to penetrate your skin and activate the mitochondria. We're human beings. We're made up of billions of cells.
Right.
The cell inside the cell is the mitochondria. And you think of it as like it's like the engine of the cell,
Right.
you know, powerhouse of the cell.
Sure.
And light gives the mitochondria energy. If you're giving
Okay.
the mitochondria energy, that cell can do what it's supposed to do. It can do its job.
Okay.
And from there, we get three mechanisms. We get enhanced blood circulation. We get anti-inflammation. Inflammation is the root, is the cause of all evil in our bodies, right?
Okay.
And we get increased ATP, we get increased energy. So when with these three mechanisms that occur inside our body when we are exposed to red and infrared light with our cells, that's where we get a vast number of outcomes. Everything
Okay.
from, being able to use red light to grow your hair, to boost collagen in your skin,
Okay.
boost your body's SPF to increase your testosterone. And most importantly, and important for me because of my background, is to be able to find relief from pain,
Right.
to actually be healed from very serious pain, um, like pain conditions like arthritis,
Right.
sciatica, deep chronic joint pain. I've had my father, it was his neck. He always had a bad neck. And my
Okay.
mom was always her knees.
Okay.
She had arthritis in her knees.
Yeah.
So we all have those friends and family that suffer from this kind of pain, and they seem to just think, this is my life. This is what I have to deal with. This is the cross I need to bear.
Right.
But light, you're able to not just find relief, temporary relief, but you can the pain can be eradicated from your body just from with something that is natural. You can't overdose on it. It's
Yeah.
non-invasive, right? So that's kind of in the simplest way that I like to explain it. But of
So,
course, I urge everyone to go find a scientist and get a deeper dive. I'm not so good at the scientific.
well, that's okay. I mean, but in principle, what I'm hearing, and tell me if I'm tracking properly with what you're telling us, is that the we're exposed to light much of the day. Most of us don't probably spend enough time outside. However, in a more natural state, we would be outside, and in different circumstances, our body would be nourished by this certain type of light that the sun puts out. Much like take a look at all the animals and the plants, right? You rarely in the wild when you look at wild animals, you rarely see anything other than vibrant health or the end of the road, right? It's like that term compression of morbidity. They go, 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 and then there's an end. And that would be how I'd like to go, by the way. Like, let me be healthy up until the moment I die, and that would be terrific. So there's a certain natural logic when I listen to you that in a more um, natural environment where we're not constrained to be inside to work as much and we could live in a more natural circadian rhythm, we would receive these things. And in a the cells have enough energy to do their job, generally speaking, like the body knows what to do, right? I mean, there's a wisdom internally. Um, however, we're usually feeding it the wrong things and slowing it down in some ways. So this sounds like red light might energize the cells to do what they were designed to do. Is that a fair kind of, did I listen properly?
Yeah, I mean, you speak very beautifully. You package the information that is so easy to be understood and accepted by your average human being, right?
Yeah.
This is some like I think this is a tribute to why your podcast is doing so well because the key thing with information where intelligence is truly achieved, true intelligence is being able to communicate to the next person and then to the next
Right, right,
person.
right.
It's like that what's that game Chinese whisper,
Yeah, yeah,
where you
right, right.
so you see how
Yeah,
long
yeah.
it's been able to say something to where it clicks in the person's head and they're like, that's great. Now I'm going to go, tell that's, I believe the truest expression of intelligence.
Huh,
When you have people that are very, very knowledgeable about, game changing, life changing, remedies that can
right.
make the better, but the way that they package it, you don't, it doesn't click. It doesn't catch on. I
Yeah,
feel like
yeah.
real disservice that
Yeah,
needs to change.
yeah, yeah, there's so much of you mean, I couldn't agree more, and watching my wife's practice when she was a naturopath, so many of the things that she was in conversation with boil down to the most basic of things. A lot of it had to do with, "What are you eating?" "How are you sleeping?" Like, just things that seem like from a physician because we're so used to the prescription of, chemicals as the solution to things.
Yeah.
Well, clear I mean, you look like a big, strong guy. I mean, so when we talk about you being an athlete, what does that mean? Like, were you in the days in which you were spending your time as an athlete, can I ask what that looked like?
So I started out playing rugby,
Okay,
which was quite a high impact sport. I went into CrossFit, which back at the time when I started it was kind of the trendy thing to get involved with.
sure.
You know, all the all the beasts, the
Yeah,
savages,
yeah,
they
yeah.
were all getting in on the CrossFit train
Sure.
and doing these crazy workouts and posting about, you know, their scores and everything.
Yeah.
But then I went from there to into boxing, which even to this day is still my absolute passion is
Okay.
boxing. But those three sports, I mean, they were the sports that I really focused on getting competitive. I went into bodybuilding and I did compete and I actually did very well, but had trouble sort of classing bodybuilding as a sport, a competitive sport, because there's no rivalry. There's no
Okay.
like versus you. It's
Yeah,
a
yeah.
different format where you're presenting what you've done to a judge. The judge looks at criteria. Do you match? No, I don't like your carbs. I like his carbs. And you're like,
Yeah, yeah.
oh, yes. But I was always more I fed off the rivalry. I fed off
Yeah, yeah.
that competition. You know, it was our team versus your team. It's me versus you in the ring. Let's
Yeah,
go.
yeah.
Right. So for boxing, that was the last sort of real competitive sport that I did. Over a number of years of fighting amateur, I got a lot of impacts to the head,
Sure.
and what was it created micro traumas, and I developed a tumor in my head. It was
Oh
about the
my
size
goodness. Good Lord.
of but yeah, that sort of ended my impact sport career where the doctors like it's not a benign tumor. We just need to get rid of it, or it's going to grow into your brain. Don't do any more impact sports. Like
Okay.
just keep no more impact. But then before that, I did CrossFit, and I had like a very serious knee injury because CrossFit is the format is like you do high load, high volume. You're always trying to boost
Yeah.
your your endurance as well as your strength. You
Right.
don't really sort of separate the two. I mean, in workouts you do, but when you compete, you're trying to achieve. You're really trying to go past your limits.
Yeah.
And a couple of times my knee would like it buckled, and then finally I think I just couldn't. Basically, I couldn't squat anymore. I couldn't compete anymore.
Right.
Um, but then before that, with rugby, both my shoulders busted. I
Yeah.
lost even my first tour when I went on tour with the team, and that's a really exciting thing where you bring the team together and you all compete, and you got your you know, you're doing the competition. You're sort of you're going
Right.
through the tournament. I think it was like the third or second game. You know, that's when I had the injury. But that, and then, you know, recovering from it, going back on the field, and then like the second game, losing
Yeah.
the other shot, like, all right, I'm out, I'm done. But, but all of those sports, like there was all these little micro injuries throughout all of them, but those were
Yeah.
the ones that really stopped me. Like if you have a career as an athlete and you're trying to, you know, achieve some greatness, you're trying to
Sure.
like, you have an idea of going pro, you're always trying to keep sort of a forward momentum.
Right.
But those injuries kind of like stopped me.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
universe was like, no more. Like you need to deload, recover, you know, figure out what your priorities are.
Yeah,
Um,
it's such a seductive like environment. Like we followed a similar athletic path. Like I was a college soccer player, and then I spent a bunch of years working myself into being fat and not taking care of myself. And then when I looked to return my body back to CrossFit in about 2006 is when I came across it. And when I say I competed, I was in competition, but I don't know that you would say I was never threatening to go take on Rich Froning and all the rest of them. So I had a lot of
right.
fun and I participated in those competitions. But I was, at that point in time, I was in my late 30s and early 40s. And by the way, much like you, I enjoy the notion of like a one-to-one competition. And may I suggest, jujitsu has been what I have found. And so it's a very, you'd be surprised in how non-impactful, I'm not saying you never have impact, but having boxed a little bit, um, it's a very, very different experience. And so this is where the audience, this is just me, Pete to John, like I give
Yeah.
jujitsu a try because it will fulfill that like one-to-one thing, but it's much safer than anything I've done.
Yes.
And so like
Yeah.
if this is as high as I can lift my arm, so I have been through the same shoulder story as you. So it would seem like, oh, it's not possible to go do jujitsu for a 53-year-old guy like myself. So whatever has happened, let me make that as a suggestion. Well, it's like one thing about your story is that there are the dramatic moments where you had like an injury that was obvious and of the moment, but all of that training and all of those things had those little micro moments of ways in which the body was being is being hurt in a certain sense and maybe beyond its ability to repair. So at what
That's right.
point in time did you hit a point where you're like, I gotta do something out of the ordinary? Because my guess is, like many of us, red light therapy wouldn't have been on your radar until it was. So what
That's right.
happened that makes you, oh man, I got to give this a shot?
Yeah, like the left knee injury, just being in a seated position, my knee would inflame. It would really hurt. Like I would have to
Yeah,
extend it. I would have with me at all times. I would have this deep heat cream that I would put onto the knee to lubricate the joint, get
sure.
it, the circulation going, so the pain would go away. I'd have to do some stretching. So sitting in a position for longer than say 15 minutes became very, very tough throughout the day.
Okay.
And actually, my wife introduced me to red light therapy.
Okay.
Uh, and she's Chinese, and she had this. It was a very large lamp, sort of like a desk lamp, something that very a very large, cumbersome contraption. It was very old technology, but
Okay.
had a very large weighted base, and it was difficult to move around. And it had the arm that you could adjust, and the bulb, the lights, the red bulb, it was a very large bulb, but it would heat up extremely hot, like a very,
Okay.
very hot bulb. And her being Chinese, she was always sort of like, Chinese do this and you should do this. And so I thought it was like some sort of feng shui,
Sure. Yeah.
medic.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
I was like, sure, we'll do it. I'll give it a try. I did want it, I wanted to appease her sort of and just say, okay, I'll stick to,
Yeah.
stick
Yeah.
to, right. I don't want you to buy this thing and I'm not going to use it.
Right.
She would say 20 minutes every night before bed. And I would extend my leg out and I would sort of angle the bulb, my
Okay.
knee. And because it was so hot, I would play this game with the knee to get it close as possible so I could get the treatment, right? The
Okay.
heat. And then I would have to move it away, like, oh, it's so hot. And I would go back and forth. And then, but after 2 weeks of this, of doing this, I didn't have any pain. And the reason why I didn't have pain is because in a seated position, I could sit down. Like I
Okay.
found myself sitting and I would normally say, oh, wouldn't that flare up now? Like normally it would I would always have to, I would, like say I was sitting in an Uber or something, I
Right.
would turn to the side and I would ask like the missus, like move over and I would put my leg on the,
Yeah. Yeah.
on
Right.
the seat,
Just
you
to get
know?
some relief. Right.
Yeah. Or I would, on a plane, I would extend my leg and push through the seat in front of me. But I didn't need to do any of that. And after like the second week, we gave the lamp to like her grandparents. So
Okay.
that really got me interested as to what it was. Then, of course, I realized it's not the heat, it was the light. So, what
Okay.
is this light? Where did it come from? But what really intrigued me was the device and creating a device that was more suited to me,
Okay.
create a portable device that you could use on the go as part of your gym bag, right?
Okay.
That's when the Lumaflex came about. That's because it was it's based on my story and the story of my family. Because that lamp, even though it did work, it just wasn't so user friendly. So
Sure.
creating a very easily accessible device that you could have with you on the go
Right.
anytime, anywhere.
Yeah.
That was what got my interest. Like if this is really helped me, then why wouldn't it help anyone else like, right?
Makes a lot of
Really.
sense. I'd like for you to talk a little bit more about that, but before you do, because I'd like to learn a little more about how the product works. But when you're in conversation with people in, say, a casual manner, where someone is not familiar with what you do, but this comes up, what type of resistance do you get when you say, you know what? Listen, I mean, I was a pretty serious athlete. I mean, did this, this, and this, and my injuries are bona fide. Like, I was out there doing all this hard stuff. I can assure you that I got hurt along the way. And then those injuries were serious, and yet light was what cured me. What
Mm.
when that what type of resistance do you get to, like, come on now, you're full of baloney. Like, what do what do people push back on? And then is there something in in the conversation which changes their mind? Like, oh, okay. I mean, maybe it's an agreement to try it. I mean, that might be like, okay, how do I get a hold of this? But maybe there's something. I'm just curious because I'm not sure that everybody listening is going to immediately like just sign off on, oh, sure,
Yeah,
this is that.
yeah.
So I'm curious, like, what your experience has been as you start to, do this work in the world.
Yeah, I mean, I guess first thing I would say is I do remember early on talking about light therapy and getting a lot of like, oh, that's pseudoscience, or okay,
Mhm.
I got you, I got you. Sort of the brush off attitude,
Yeah.
like surgeons are but but then now I feel like maybe it's just because of the communities I'm involved in, the events that we go to, um, the trade shows, the exhibitions that we attend. There's already such a huge consensus thumbs up on red light therapy. It's more of a question of what device suits me.
Okay.
What's your device, and how is this application better than that application? It's more
Okay.
like, but and if you talk about red light therapy, now that we have like the endorsement of some of the top names, like Joe
Yeah.
Rogan, right?
Yeah.
Joe
Yeah.
Rogan, he's all over it. All everyone's favorite athlete all uses it. Like there's that boxer, Jake Paul.
Right. Right.
He always talks about it, right?
Yeah.
Francis Ngannou, who's now a
Yeah.
big name,
Yeah. Yeah.
he always talks about it, right?
Yeah.
So get enough people, Andrew Herberman, Gary Brecka, who's the
Yeah.
doctor of Dana White, who helped him. He,
That's right.
all, so there's like this awareness coming through, and a lot of these people that are popular and on social media, they're
Mhm.
public, figures, they're attaching their names to it. They're creating their own brand. So now it's almost like a trendy thing to be involved with, you
Okay.
know. But you still get those people, the pseudoscience. I think you're full of it. And usually, if I'm talking about red light therapy, I just say, what you should do is you should try because they think I'm just selling my product.
Sure.
Oh, you just try to sell me product. And I'm like, no, 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 no. You don't have to buy this product. Buy any product.
Right.
Make a very cheap investment, but give yourself at least 2 weeks
Yeah.
for you would, and then we'll have the conversation again. Usually if you give like the power back to someone, like
Yeah. Yeah.
someone who's had difficulty, if you give them options, they usually become more receptive.
I
Like
agree.
if I say, like, you make the decision about what to buy, go to Amazon, pay $30. I'm sure you can find something that's
Right.
affordable. And then use it for 2 weeks. It's on you. And then we'll have
Right.
a conversation. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's usually
I mean, this is along the lines of, experience is the only way to make a judgment. Like
yeah.
if you don't have the experience of it, then we're just in a conversation about a theory. Like you're saying, like, look, I've experienced. Here's all the things I did. Here's all the pain I was in, and it helped me. And if you don't go and give something a try, then you're just in a quarrel with the idea. Like, you have no idea. And pain is such a distracting part of all of our lives. I mean, I think about myself as I'm listening to you because I think about things that are distractingly painful for me. Like
Yeah.
my shoulders, the doctors would prefer that I replace my shoulders, and I'm not willing to do that because, like, I say, "Well, will I be able to do this, this, and this?" And they're like, "Well, no." I'm like, "Well, until there's no other option, there's no way I'm taking my shoulders out because I'm not giving up all these other things. I'm not in enough pain to do that." However, um, it if I go to a fascial stretch therapist, they're like, "You need to stretch more." I go to a orthopedic surgeon, they're like, "We got to take your shoulders out." So I think, whatever incentive like aligns with it. But what I'm curious about for myself is like, I know I have these issues that are structural within my body. And the question I've been asking these people is like, if the tissues around the structural damage like relaxed a little and weren't inflamed, how much range of motion would I actually have? Because I have a feeling my body is bound up from all of the injuries that I've experienced over time. So when I think about my reaction to red light therapy over how I've heard it through those very people, I've been skeptical. But one of the things I've been skeptical about is like, well, how do I get it off my body in a way that I can like measure? that. So it seems like what you're doing is a way to kind of address that. So maybe tell us a little bit about your product and how, granted, look, you're listening, you want to go give this a shot. You got all kinds of options out there in the world. Go wherever
That's
you want
right.
to go. But for right now, I'd like to talk a little bit about what you designed and what the utility of the design is.
Yeah. So I focus solely on portability.
Okay.
That was my big focus is there's, there's so many devices out there. You throw a stone now, it's a red light therapy device.
Yeah,
They're
yeah,
everywhere. But usually when I look at it, it's not so, you have to adapt to that device, that application, that product. You have to adapt to it. It
yeah.
should adapt to you. So I wanted to create like a wearable. Thus was born the Lumaflex Body Pro. So
Right.
this is a silicone panel. So
Okay.
it's flexible. It's very, very durable. It's made of silicone. And the portability part is I aimed for a surface area that was large enough to address the biggest pain point in America, which is the lower back.
Okay.
That's the number one thing that people go into hospitals for is they say, I've got a bad back and it's from bad posture, sitting at the computer. It's
Yeah,
from,
yeah.
doing golf and not warming up or whatever it is, but
Sure.
that's number one pain. So a device that can really cover the lower back was always, but it can't be too big because you lose portability. So I aimed to have the size of your average side pocket of a pair of pants or shorts, like the cargo style shorts, like the
Right.
army. So it maintains that portability. Flexibility is very important because when you when you are when you're looking at pain management, the device needs to touch your skin.
Okay.
You need
Okay.
some amount of treatment to that affected area. So a panel, which like there's a lot of devices out there that are like solid panels,
Right.
and
Right. I've seen this.
in front of it, and you get maybe a good cardiovascular benefit. You get maybe a lot of beauty, but when it comes to pain, especially for infrared, because you're looking at a nanometer to really go deep into the tissue, you've got to get up nice and close to it.
Okay.
You maximize what the treatment can give you.
Right.
So the design of this is to be on your skin. And then
Okay.
we're like, oh, it's silicone. Let's go further. Let's make it fully waterproof.
Nice.
Let's make it, environment tested, temperature tested. So the Lumaflex Body Pro, when you buy it, it has like a spare battery. So the
Right.
idea, one is charging, one's in use, and you never
Nice.
stop treatment.
Okay.
Um, and you can take it into a shower, you can swim with it. You can take it into a cryo chamber, hyperbaric chamber, salt chamber, sauna.
Whatever you
Like
want.
you can take it. And the idea, like in the company there, they joke around. They're like, John, you're trying to make it bulletproof because I've always expressed a strong interest to give a device like this to the military where it
Okay.
can, like, if you're having this in your bag, you've been deployed, like it's something that I feel like
Yes. Yes.
to be able to really withstand some cruel environment. Um, so that was the idea, like in the whole landscape of portable devices, it is considered this is the best portable device. So
Yes.
portability meaning like use it on the go anytime, anywhere. This is part of your gym bag. You take this on a plane, on your carry-on. You use it, while you're on travel. But there are many other devices there which are portable, which have amazing benefits,
Okay.
whether they be panels, they be beds, just larger constructions, even lamps, like other more that are a little bit designed a little bit better, for when you're relaxing, you're at home.
Right.
So I don't try to take every category. I'm trying to take the category of like, okay, if we like you mentioned earlier about light being something we need as humans, we would wake up in the morning, we'd go outside. Light is a daily intake. We
Right.
need
Right.
clean water,
Yes.
healthy, regular exercise,
Yeah.
deep sleep on a daily basis. I think the other missing component is light. Like
Yeah.
we as humans, there's so much benefit, not just not just physically, for like our bodies
Right.
to manage, but just our overall
Yes.
well-being,
Right. Right. Right.
anxiety, depression, right? Just for our overall mood, alertness, focus, where people are having amounts of coffee a day, or they're taking
Yes.
stimulants and everything to get them ready to be able to finish their 100 emails a day or finish their,
Sure.
either writing or whatever it is. It's like there's a lot of overall benefit just as a human being for your wellness, just to get yourself light. And if you're having a device that isn't portable, maybe it's a good idea to have a portable device to guarantee you're getting your light daily, right?
Yeah, and I mean, just to ask a question that other people might wanna ask is, the notion of having something directly on your skin, um, so some questions that might come to mind, like, "Hey, will that be uncomfortable?" You know, yeah, like, is it something that I have to feel like I'm enduring? And then secondly, living in the desert, we think a lot about protecting our skin. So is there a way in which this could accelerate the wrong things? For example, in Arizona, we have a lot of skin cancer because of the nature of the intensity of sun here. So can we just put to bed like those are things that might come up? Like what's the answers to those questions?
Yeah. So developing the silicone panel to be able to touch your skin obviously means that it's easy to clean. Like with the Body Pro, you can even wash it. But using a textile, and you've got your sweaty, there's a hygiene element in there that I wanted
Sure.
to eliminate. I want to make it clean, but it's silicone, so it's extremely comfortable to put on your skin. I usually throughout the day, I call it the Iron Man. I hang it in my
That's
it's
interesting.
like when you buy it, it has straps that you can, target certain areas. But I
Okay.
usually just move my clothing. I usually just move it around within my clothing.
Yeah.
But it's interesting you say about like your body, about skin protection, right?
Right.
Because red light is actually boosts your body's SPF levels.
Oh,
So, back primal times when we would wake up to our sunrise, this would condition us for the later rays of light that were more
okay.
intense, that were more hard on our cells.
Yeah.
And it's funny if you do talk to like neuroscientists and biohackers and all of them, none of them touch sunblock. It's like the biggest no, the
Okay.
biggest,
Yeah.
because they're all big red light people, right? So
Right, right.
most biohackers that I've met, the real like the gurus, the top
Sure.
G's, they will get they will
Yeah.
be like, "Oh, it's late. I gotta go to bed. I gotta get my sunrise." Like for them, the sunrise is like it's like
Yeah.
us getting workouts or jujitsu or
Yeah, yeah,
boxing.
yeah, yeah.
Like, I gotta get my sunrise, right?
So,
And
oh,
never touch sunblock,
yeah.
never.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because I know that, like, as a naturopath for my wife, like,
Mm.
she, I think, she's of a mixed mind with that. So, we buy, uh, very expensive sunblock that is supposedly saved, but there's another factor of light, like clean air and light are among the best disinfectants in the world. Like if you're familiar with Joel Salatin, who's a farmer in the United States that's a very um he's a rebel among the farmers and he has an abattoir, right, where he harvests his chickens. And the chickens
Okay.
are outside. Where he does this outside, which is against the rules of you have to have a certain sort of if you're inside, the floor, the walls all have to be at a certain spec. And he does this outside in sunlight and fresh air. And the health department and he have been in a fight over years. And he's a famous figure in the agricultural community. So he said to them, "Look, I'll tell you what. I will agree to do what you say if your chicken in where you're harvesting your chickens is less contaminated with E. coli and so than mine." And so he brings the two birds, they bring the two birds, and the bird that was harvested in the fresh air and the sunlight had less
Mm.
bad stuff in it than the ones that were done in the laboratory. So it always stayed with me as like a very dramatic example because I can imagine like going, well, hold on a second. Surely the health department knows better. But another thing about light that I find fascinating comes to the idea of sunglasses. So in a
Yes.
naturopathic community, your eyes are like some extraordinary amount of your blood is going through your eyes at some interval. I don't know whether it's every hour or whatever, but it's something surprising that all the
Yeah.
blood in your body is circulating through your eyes. So when you wear sunglasses, you are shielding your eyeballs from certain types of light, right? And the disadvantage to that is that that light is actually disinfecting your blood. So I gave
Yes.
up sunglasses so that way, I uh, you're right. I have a because I believed because it makes very it makes a very intuitive connection to me. Your eyes
Yes.
are looking at sun, sun is cleaning up, things that you don't want in your body. And so your blood's running through your eyes. It just seems like a pretty smart way of nature to go, well, let's just filter this right here. Um,
You're a true biohacker. That is
I yeah, I'm an amateur, but I love what you're saying because when my wife would bring me stories of rheumatoid arthritis and the amount of chemicals being dumped into those people's bodies to keep them under pain. And then she would sit with them and she'd say like, "Well, what do you eat?" And so, "Well, I'll have Taco Bell for lunch and we'll stop by Burger King for dinner and whatever is left over, what I had for breakfast." And then when she'd get them to eat whole foods for 6 weeks, it was as if, miracles were happening, and all she was doing is trying to take all that terrible stuff out of their system. So, the do no harm, like, what makes most sense, just as things that appeal to me. Well, tell us if there are gonna be people listening, and they're gonna wanna, "Well, let me go get this, or let me at least go look at where I can get it." So, can you tell us a little bit where people can find your product?
so lumaflex.com, Luma meaning light, flex like meaning, it's shaped
Oh,
like
yeah, yeah.
capable. Lumaflex.com, you can go and look at what we've got. I've got the Lumaflex Body Pro, and I also have the Essential. The Essential is more affordable because it's not fully waterproof. It is
Okay,
still silicone, so you can still wash it, but it's not fully waterproof. You can't submerge it underwater. But
okay.
those are the two products we have. But I'm excited to launch new applications using like very advanced portable materials, like it again more catered towards the active audience, or
Yeah,
if you're just who's always on the move. So
right.
later this year, new products are going to be coming out. But yeah, I mean, if you, to hit me up personally, I'm very active on Instagram because we have a lot of pro athletes and
Okay.
influencers that communicate. They like to use that as their medium. But just John Graham Fitness, you can easily hit me up, ask me any questions or concerns. I have access to a very extensive clinical database
Okay.
specific for red and infrared light. And it's the database is from like one of the top photobiomodulation doctors in the world. I
Okay.
can't even remember his name. He's just made this available. And all he
Okay.
does is anytime clinical research has come out about red and infrared light, he just uploads it. He just
Wow.
keeps up. And it's so extensive. So if you're looking for like, something really, really good to, sink your teeth in, for your morning coffee,
Yeah.
you need to use like the search,
Yeah.
because it's just too extensive. So you would look up, like, say, for example, an eye condition,
Right. Right.
um, that up, and then you'll get a list of all the clinical research because
Wow.
it's just too extensive now. But I've got so much access to, like, this is a class 2 cleared FDA product. Um,
Okay.
but I have such a huge array of clinical research available to me. And actually, something I can actually start sharing out more just within the last week is I'm actually running my own clinical user trial in the
Wow.
UK specific for my device. So
Okay.
obviously, there's a lot of clinical research on the nanometers that I use, and
Yeah.
that's to get FDA cleared, which is good. But again, if I'm going to be the world's number one portable device, I want to take that extra step. I want to create trust
Right.
and create a lot of legitimacy with the brand that this is,
Yeah.
about my mission. I have to invest in my own user trial. I have to have my
Yes.
own,
Yes.
100+ subjects. You get, 8 weeks or 16 weeks. I can't remember what I
Right.
chose, but every day they've got a protocol and then they give feedback. And I have to have this that I can publish and
Yeah.
say, I've taken that extra step on this unit specifically, to help support the
Yeah.
brand and obviously out, any and all questions that come through. Right.
Yeah. I mean, listening to you talk, I mean, I have a bias towards athletes because I feel like the discipline of the athlete is to do lots and lots of stuff that nobody can see, that then gets put on display that looks effortless. And so, when you've done all of this work and you bring it, they're like, oh, so all I got to do is search the database. When all of the effort that goes into that, isn't necessarily is the below the water of the iceberg. Um,
That's,
right.
that's,
But the if you're listening, like, okay, go read the research, but maybe you go try something because nothing will substitute for the experience of having less pain, of all that. So listen, I'm super excited for you, and you want to come back and talk more. We can do this again in the future. But I'm really grateful for solving the issue of pain in the world. There's lots and lots of people that would live happy, healthier lives, and everybody around those people would be happier and healthier too, because it
That's
always
right.
radiates out, right? Like the person in pain has a tendency to be cranky, and then they make
Yeah.
other people cranky. Inversely, the happy person, right, spreads joy and happiness too. So
Absolutely.
listen, thank you very much, and again, you want to come back, we'll talk anytime.
Thank you so much. It means a lot.
So look, today's modern revolutionary, John is talking to us about ways in which you can relieve your pain, and safe ways that you don't have to worry about, like, are there things that could hurt you. And if he inspires you, I hope that you follow him on Instagram, learn about what he's doing, and know that we encourage you to be your own modern revolutionary. I want you to bring your ideas and your voices to the world, because the modern revolution needs us all.